Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Amador. I'm part of our Health and STEM pathway here at Fresno City. And I'm going to start this evening by introducing our current president of Fresno City College, Dr. Marlon Hall. And he's going to welcome all of us this morning. Thank you for being here. Dr. Hall.
Well, thank you for inviting me to welcome all of you to this wonderful health professionals panel. And as the interim president here at Fresno City College, we sincerely believe that we're number one, we're the greatest, and we always do what's best for our students. So with this great group of health professional panelists, we're going to close gaps and we're going to collaborate with our communities. I sincerely believe, as an honorary nurse, my years as a dean, I was given a lamp, so I have it at home, my first nursing program at West Hills College, Lemoore. So I am an honorary nurse, and I think this partnership is very unique. It shows what you really think, that our students are very important to you. And this is a time for meaningful discussion and meaningful questions and a lot of dialogue. But the main thing, as our mission and vision talks about, is community and economic development. Again, I want to welcome all of you to Fresno City College and this health professionals panel. And once around, always around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hall. So as mentioned, we have six wonderful health professionals that are here tonight. They're going to be answering questions. They're going to be giving advice on where they got today in the professional field. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Gladys Mendoza.
Hi, my name is Gladys Mendoza, and I'm a registered nurse. Sorry, I'm at work.
My name is Michael Reyna, and I'm a lead X-ray technologist at Hanford Hospital.
Hi, my name is Anita Cornell. I'm a dental hygienist. I work part-time at the Fresno City College and work full-time at Veterans Hospital.
Hello, my name is Catherine Ross, and I work full-time as a genetic counselor, licensed and certified for the state of California with UCSF in their cancer genetics division.
Good evening. My name is Jill Barabee. I'm a registered nurse, and I work as the assistant nurse administrator out at Colingasay Hospital.
Hello, my name is Samantha Ponce. I'm a licensed clinical laboratory scientist. I work at Coya Health Lab in Visalia, California. Well, obviously, sorry. I'm also our quality assurance, quality control section chief, special projects supervisor, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists, for being here tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here for our students and answer these questions. So we'll be starting with Gladys. Question number one, what is your background and why did you choose the profession that you are in?
Actually, like when I first started college, I was going to be an accountant, but because my family, all the women in my family are nurses, so I was influenced to become a nurse. And so I've been one since, I was an LVN first since 2000, and I became a registered nurse in 2010.
Thank you.
Do we want to let another panelist also answer that question before I go on to the next one?
I'll answer that question too. My background at first, and before I got into the profession I was in, I started off as a receptionist and a file clerk in a clinic. And then when I went through the Fresno City program, I wanted to do X-ray because when I was younger, I had an X-ray done of my hand, and I thought that was actually pretty interesting how a camera, it was a very odd camera, was able to take a picture of my skeleton, and the doctor was able to see the fracture of the bone. And so that really intrigued me to get into that type of field. I don't think I've actually, well, actually, I did consider one other career, and that was a hostage negotiator, but that was short-lived. So radiology has pretty much been my main thing ever since.
I can answer that question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I'd like to answer this one as well. So when I first started college, I was on a track to earn a doctorate, teach and do research at the university level. After I finished my bachelor's, I went on and got my master's degree and realized at that time that I didn't think I wanted to go on the PhD track because I wanted to be the one in the lab doing the work. And most of the primary investigators that I worked with as a graduate student were always in their office writing grants, trying to get money to fund their research. So I decided if I really wanted to teach, I could teach at the junior college if I I wanted to do that. And then I got married shortly after I finished my master's degree, and I actually got a job working at State Center Community College District. I was a lab technician for the Madera College. And then I transferred to Fresno City College, and I was a lab technician there in the biology department for 5 years. And after working all that time, I knew about clinical lab science as a profession, but it was always kind of just in the back of my mind. And I decided I wanted to pursue that. And I did that in 2011. I started a training program at CUIA in Visalia and got my license in 2012. And my only regret is not doing it sooner. I knew about clinical lab science even as a graduate student, but I didn't think it was something I was really interested in. But it's amazing because it's like a little mystery every single day. I work in all the different departments of the laboratory. I don't specialize in one specific area. So I do chemistry one day, hematology the next, microbiology, immunohistochemistry, serology. I used to work in our blood bank, but I don't work in that department any longer. But it's just every day is something different. And, it's just really cool and I like it. That's it.
Jill, oh, sorry, Janice. Jill, there's a question there. Did you see it in the chat? So has anyone on here had to move out of town for the program? How did you manage financially with family that depends on you for support? If you want to add that into your answer.
Okay, yeah, so my answer essentially was I had graduated with my bachelor's from a four-year university and kind of a very broad degree of psychology and sociology, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do or how I was going to apply that. And shortly after I graduated, I became pregnant and I found myself as a single parent. And so it really kind of forced me to decide and make some kind of hard decisions. And so I had to kind of pick a career path that was, where can I go where I can make good money, support myself and my child, and essentially move anywhere in the United States and be able to have this job. So that, lo and behold, nursing it is. A lot of people go into nursing because they're either very caring or, very patient focused. And not to say I'm not those things, but that wasn't really the driving factor for me. I needed to go to school and I need to get through a program quickly. And so I ended up moving to Arkansas. I had a friend that had moved out there randomly in Little Rock. And I was able to get into their program almost overnight. And so I started my nursing school out there, and it was difficult. It was very hard. So when you're having to relocate and do those things. Honestly, I don't think I could have done it without family support. At that time, I had a child that was under the age of 1, and it's difficult sometimes to make it to the clinicals and to do those kind of things. So if you are the one that's going to be financially supporting the family, it's not easy. It's worth it, but it's not easy. And like I said, I don't think I could have done it without the support of my family.
I'm going to ask panelists the second question. I know there's 2 of them we haven't heard from yet, so maybe we'll get them talking. Question number 2, what advice would you give students pursuing a math, science, or engineering career today?
I'm happy to take that one. I'm a genetic counselor, which some of you may not have ever heard before, which is a career specializing in science and counseling, giving people information about genetics. And this was a field I had no idea about. STEM does not cover that when you're learning about most biology concepts. So my biggest recommendation would be research all the types of jobs and careers and pathways and occupations that resonate with you. If there are things that you heard about that from a TV show or from a class or other career events like this or opportunities, Fresno City has some fabulous career classes you can take. If you hear about things that interest you, dig deeper, because it oftentimes is a really good opportunity for you to shadow professionals in that path to learn, are you on the correct career path to do what you're interested in? Is your education really aligned for that career that you're interested in? Because there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time, unfortunately, getting science and math specializations that are not always immediately actionable. If you like criminal science, look into the field and find out if that's something that you actually have the qualifications and certifications and licensing to do. Those are the types of things I would highly encourage people to investigate and research, because that's not something that is really on your professors or your counseling team to tell you about. They're there to get you graduated, but you also need to research and take some initiative to find out about what you can see yourself doing and what you're excited to see yourself doing.
I like to answer, piggyback on that question. Can you guys hear me? Because on my first time, yeah, okay. I'm a dental hygienist. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger. You know, I came from Mexico at the age of 9, started the 4th grade, not knowing how to read or write, even my own language, because I never went to school over there. So English was very challenging, and I did excel in science. And that, for some reason, it makes sense to me. And I just kept going. Then I went to college, really college, and I took dental assisting classes. I did the program there. Then I enjoyed it, even in high school, just the biology and whatever science classes I took 30 plus years ago. Then I decided to go into dental hygiene. And boy, what a surprise that we have to take microbiology, anatomy, physiology, a lot of the science that we have, we need to take to become a dental, to go into the program, and I really enjoyed it. So I think that if you like science, if you excel in science, just, it worked for me. And, I've been dental hygienist for 17 years, and I think it worked out for me. So, but yes, research, do your research. I got lucky. Not everyone can be as lucky as I got. Really liking this career.
Thank you, Anita. Any other panelists?
Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and we'll move on to question 3 then. So question 3 is, what has been one thing that you can attribute to your success?
I'd like to answer that one. One thing that contributed to my success was definitely support. Family and the school resources is one of the things that contributed to mine. If you find that something really isn't working um, during the time that you're going through the program or you're going through college, it's best to try to take care of that issue as soon as possible. Do not let it linger. And so what I mean is, um, one of the things was financial aid. That really did help me get through a lot of the trials and tribulations that I had when I was struggling as a student. And because a lot of the times I had to devote, you know, um, to studying, I also had to try to find a time to work in order to, support myself and of course to support my family. And so, in short, I think looking for those resources, understanding what the problems are, and then being able to find the solution to balance those issues, I feel are one of the things that really helped me get through it. And also, too, I want to add hot dogs and ramen. You can't leave those out. You can't stock up on those guys. It's great stuff. We'll get you through it, and you'll lose weight.
Um, totally agree with you, Michael. Uh, what contributed to my success was just be tenacious, go and look at the goal that you want to get to. And when you get there, I think for me, I became financially stable, and it's a blessing to help the people that helped you while you were getting to your goal, like your parents, your siblings, your uncles, yes, whoever was there for you, not just financially, but supporting you, giving you that you got it, go for it. You just keep studying, look forward, I think it was a blessing for me. So to just keep helping when I got a good career and I became financially stable to help. It's a good karma, it's a blessing. So I think you just have to help everyone that helped you.
All right, we'll go on to question 4. Panelists, what is a mistake or bad habit you made as a student that you've learned from?
I wanted to talk about this one because I don't have a long answer, but one of the things that I did when I was in school is you're learning so much in such a short period of time that you're moving from system to system. So nursing, 1 week you're learning about respiratory, the next week you're onto renal system. And I found myself memorizing the material rather than really learning the material. And so if I could go back, that was one thing that I would probably change, is get more involved. I was kind of a loner in school. I was just trying to raise my child. So I wasn't really involved in a lot of the groups that seem to be forming for study groups. And I think that's a really good avenue because people learn in different ways. Some are more auditory or visual or however it is. And I think when you're in a small group and you get together and you're kind of supporting each other and you're able to bounce questions off of each other and learn from each other. And I think that's probably the best way. And I think if I had done that, I might not have been so relying just on really trying to memorize the material, but intrinsically I would have had the knowledge and actually had learned the material. And I think it would have helped in the long run.
I think one thing to piggyback on that is I think a lot of us pride ourselves on being very independent. And if we're used to helping support our families or taking care of things financially, that we don't ask for help or accept help. And that's the number one thing I would recommend people to break the habit of. Humble yourself, be okay with accessing free resources. Be okay and proud of yourself for admitting when you need help, because if that means you need to talk to disability services, or you need to get tutoring, or use any of the millions of free supplemental instructors or tutors or other supports that are oftentimes available for free, or as part of your college in general, you can benefit so much. And really the only person that's hurting from you trying to be prideful is yourself. So break that habit early and often.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you on that, because when I was struggling in first year college, I did not ask for help, and I was, juggling 12 units and full-time job and paying rent, paying, your food that you needed to eat, and you struggle, and not just mentally, but you struggle financially, and in your in your classes too. I really did. That was one of the things that I wish I would have asked someone, an instructor, a teacher, that I could have went and talked to her or him and say, hey, I need help, or even family, and tell the mom and dad. And so I think that that's the biggest mistake, that a lot of students don't ask. So I wish I would have done that when I was first year in college. Yeah, that would have helped. It would have made my life a lot easier.
Are we able to answer a Q&A right now, or is that just saved for after? I'm sorry, I forgot. There is one question on here. I want to kind of answer for one of the students. I can type it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, panelists. We'll go ahead and move on to question number 4. Question number 5. So how was your college experience, especially for those of you who started at a community college?
I'll answer this one. So I actually did start out at Fresno City College. Right out of high school, I just went into it with a bang, and I went part-time for 4 years because I was working full-time because, I had to pay for school. I was a lazy student, so I never applied for any kind of scholarships or any help or anything like that. So I just had to work to pay my way through school. And then once I transferred to Fresno State, I was just going along thinking I had to take all of my general ed classes. And then I got to a point where I started thinking about transferring, and I had 20 units in excess of what I needed to transfer. And then I freaked out because I was like, am I not going to have enough units to graduate when I get to Fresno State? So that was a whole other thing. But when I transferred to Fresno State, I actually did apply for some financial aid and scholarships and things, and transitioned from school part-time to school full-time, because I knew I needed to just go gung-ho into it and get my degree finished. So I took, once I got to Fresno State, I got my bachelor's 2.5 years after I got there. And it was really rough majoring in biology and not having any general ed classes to balance out all of my science courses. So I would definitely not recommend taking all of your GE at the junior college if you're on a transfer track, because it was really hard for me one semester taking organic chemistry, cell biology. I think I had comparative animal zoology at that time as well, and calculus, all in the same semester. It was horrifying. And it was like that every semester. Then I had biochemistry and organic chemistry lab, and then it was a lot. So when I was working still part-time, I worked at Chuck E. Cheese's while I was in college. And I would tell all the kids coming in through high school, don't do what I did. Take your GE, get your 60 units and get the heck out of there. Save some easy stuff, because you need a break. You need something mindless to kind of take it easy. And then my very last semester at Fresno State, I took 2 non-science courses, my last upper division capstone. And it was so gravy. It was awesome because I didn't have to like really just drill my brain into thinking about what I was doing. And I was also doing research at the time for the person that I was doing my master's research with. I had started that research as an undergraduate. So I was also balancing that, working in a research lab. So I was at school like probably, I don't know how many times, probably 50 hours a week, because I was taking my classes and doing research. Plus I was working on the weekends. It was a lot. So, I mean, it was fun. I made a really nice group of friends, a bunch of girls that I'm still friends with today. We don't see each other a whole lot because we've all got families and I live, an hour away from everybody else. But, you make tight bonds in the suffering with the classes that you take, especially if you're in the hard sciences, biology, chemistry, physics. But, it's you have to make connections with people who have a shared common torture or interest, however you take it, and help to get those people to help you and support each other while you're going through. So that's that.
Anyone else on college experience?
I can add. So when I started my registered nursing classes, I was a full-time LVN here downtown in the ER. So it was really busy, and my daughter was like 3 or 4 at that time, and my husband wasn't making a lot of money, but it's a hard balance between going to school full time, going to work full time, and taking care of our daughter at that time. So it was very challenging, and I wanted to quit a few times, but you'll get that feeling when you'll be overwhelmed with everything that you're facing, paying bills, working, going to school. But just keep going, ask for help, use the resources that is available to you in school, and like financially, like you can get financial aid or like student loans, but just keep going. Don't let yourself quit.
Anybody else on college experience? Okay, question 6.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, panelists.
Oh. I don't want to take too much time. My college experience was, besides struggling full-time job and full-time, I had a lot of fun with my friends. So it was great, but it was, you just have to work. You just have to work really hard and make your schooling a priority, and I wish I would have learned that at that time, but it was, have fun as well as work, go to school.
I want to add to that as well, make it quick. My experience was actually very good. One of the things for me was not think of it so much as, going in and, having to slam the books. From my perspective, what I liked was going into, knowing when I was going to go into a class, who I was going to meet. You meet new people every time. Every semester, there's going to be something new. You're going to make new friends. And that's one of the things that I think I loved about going to college, was the experience of that, meeting different people, the advantages of that, where you have to find the balance between work and fun. And so, you have the semester breaks, spring breaks, the winter breaks. And when you meet these, you start to develop with more friends, maybe outside your comfort zone, you're gonna find yourself that, there's gonna be certain changes in your environment atmosphere that you probably, never thought that you would experience. So for me, that was a big thing for me in college. I do miss that. So I'm actually now reconsidering re-enrolling.
Classes are filling fast, Michael. Okay, panelists, question 6. How has your gender or ethnicity played a role in your profession?
I don't know if it played a role in my profession, but I just know that around 90+% of dental hygienists are women, are females, and around 6-7% are males. So, and besides that, about 10% are Latinos. So I think that I want to tell those Latinas to get in there and start, taking some dental hygiene prerequisites to get into the program, because there is a need, especially if you speak Spanish. There's a necessity to work in the underserved communities. So I'll be your cheerleader if you find me, to get in there. And males too, the guys, we need male hygienists as well, like the nursing. I think they're getting more male hygienists than the dental hygiene. We got 1 or 2 every semester, I think, in our classes. So I just, I hope that we get a lot more Latinos, but we need more help.
I was going to comment as well, kind of, what Anita had said. I don't have the statistics like she did in terms of percentages of male versus female, but it's just kind of a known thing that the nursing field is more dominated by women. However, I feel like that's changing. And I feel like I work with a lot of men at the facility that I work with. I think it is becoming more as a known cultural thing that there are men, in this profession. And I think it's time to kind of break down some of those barriers or some of those stigmas that I think people think that, like, it's a nurse, she's, it must be a female. And, I was talking to my sister the other day, and we were talking about this age-old riddle that says, a man and his son are driving in a car, and they get in a car accident, and the father is killed at the site of the accident. The boy is rushed to the hospital, and the surgeon looks at the boy and says, I can't operate on him. He's my son. And they're saying, well, how is that possible? So some of the theories that people have is, oh, well, maybe it's the surgeon's stepson, or maybe it's the surgeon's adopted son. And no one stops really to think that, oh, wait, the surgeon is his mother. And I think the same thing is true when it comes to nursing. If I had told you that same riddle, but I had said, the boy was rushed to the hospital, and the nurse said, I can't take care of him because he's my son, everyone wouldn't question, well, how is that possible? So anyways, my point is that I feel like it's changing, but I feel like we should get there. We're getting there quicker. Just letting you know, we want more men. There's men out there, and I think they're needed.
I kind of want to touch on this as well. So I had a fellowship when I was at Fresno State that was geared toward students who are of underrepresented minority groups and first-time college graduates, of which I'm both. But one of the hallmarks of my kind of entrance essay into the program was that I was a woman in science, which everybody says, oh my gosh, there's no women in science. It's such a rare thing. But in my lab at Kauai, we're all women. There's four guys that work in the laboratory with us, which is kind of an anomaly. It's like the reverse of what it used to be. Back in the 60s and 70s, it was all men in the lab. And of course, they were smoking cigarettes and drinking their coffee next to their chemistry analyzers. And it's a whole different thing. And it's just like, I don't know, it is true. A lot of women go into nursing. We have a male nurse who works up in our labor delivery floor. And the first time I saw him, he came down with like a urine for a chain of custody, for instance, from the labor delivery. I was like, wow, a male labor and delivery nurse, because you never see that. And I thought, good for him. That's freaking awesome. Because it's just something like, oh, only women are labor and delivery nurses. You know what I mean? Only men are ER doctors. Like, it's just like there's a stereotype that's just attached to everything. And I think when they talk about women in science, it's an abnormality, or it's something that's not, you don't see frequently. I think they are talking about like researchers. There aren't as many female researchers as there are men for whatever reason, and maybe women don't think they can get into it, or they don't think they are loud enough to be heard or to get their point across when they're presenting the research. But I worked with 2 different primary investigators when I was in graduate school. One who was a man whose wife worked with us in the lab, and she would put him in his place all the time. And then the second person I worked with was a woman, and she was a force to be reckoned with for sure. So, I mean, I think that the tides are changing, or they're changing into more of a balance, but I think it's still like science careers are still, you think of men always in those kinds of careers, but we're doing better.
One thing I will say, I agree that I think there's a lot of concern historically that there's been underrepresentation of women, but I think a lot of fields are getting a lot better, and genetic counseling is one of them. That we've talked about several women-dominated fields. This is another woman-dominated field, but all of the examples that everyone has given, you all have 50% of our patients are men still. This still is a need. You know, you don't need to pigeonhole yourself or think about, well, who will my coworkers be? Who will be in my lab? Who will be my supervisor? You don't know what that will be, because that will be different, and in 5, 6 years, sometimes longer. So give yourself, if you're interested in something, give yourself the chance, because it doesn't matter if you're in the minority or the majority. Oftentimes, you're going to connect with someone, and there might be a transgender person or a male or other people who aren't typically represented or heard or feel that they are seen, and you might be the exact person they need.
Excellent responses, panelists. Would anyone else like to add to that? Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. So this next question, I know a number of the panelists have already had a chance to kind of address this particular question, but question 7 is, a lot of college students have additional things that affect their 100% dedication to their studies. For example, extra work hours, students who are parents, money issues, family problems, mental health, disabilities, etc. So what advice would you give to students that are dealing with things outside of the classroom that may prevent them from being able to dedicate 100% of their focus to their studies?
I think for me, if I would have, back then, if I would have known, I would definitely would have worked less, or would have taken less classes. If I was struggling, also, I would, like we had mentioned earlier, ask for help, ask your family. They're always willing to help you. And then just, even if it takes longer to reach your goal, take less classes, or if you cannot work less because the bills pile up, take less classes. I think that would have worked for me. That would have been a good decision if I would have known.
I'll say something too in regards to that. So one of the things that that I can probably say, and not everyone might agree on it, but that's okay too, is being able to accept what you are able to control. Okay, and what I mean by that is, for example, you're going to get a lot of things. Well, well, was it hard for you to, was your job really stressful, and did you not want to keep doing it? Well, the thing about it is, if you're finding something that isn't working, you need to be able to find what is. So if you if your job is not really working out with your schedule, well, then maybe you'll need to, find a different job, something that will better accommodate you. If you're feeling that that is just too hard on you, because your mental well-being is extremely important. Not only just the sense of you trying to, get through college, but you have to recognize that when something isn't right, you have to be able to change that part of it. For me, it was, again, just, with my struggles, with what I had to do was I had to move in with a family member. I had to move in with my sister to help me, get through college, because I wasn't able to, afford my apartment anymore, because it was pretty much a full-time gig. And, it's those type of things where you have to, feel that, if you notice something that that they're not able to control, we'll find something that you are able to control. And I think I'm just saying this in a really broad aspect.
All right. I'm going to go on to question 8. What advice would you give students who are being affected by what's going on in the world right now? Big word, COVID, racial injustices, or other world items. Nobody has COVID advice?
I wasn't really prepared to answer this question, but I was, just as you're talking about it, there are more challenges, obviously, because of COVID. I know that at our facility, we have a lot of teams of students that come in and do part of their clinical rotation there, and all that was shut down. I know we're kind of getting back into the groove of things. And so obviously it makes it harder. But kind of like what Michael was saying before, you can only control the things that you can control. And so you have to kind of persevere and navigate with everybody else, kind of the loopholes and how to get around it, and just know that in the end, it's going to be worth it. And you have to remind yourself it's for a period of time. So when you're struggling with, childcare and jobs and school all in the same thing, and the other social things that are going on in the world today, just remind yourself it's for an 18-month period, it's for a 3-year period, whatever it is, because somehow that kind of helps you get through it, and just know that this is not going to be like this for the rest of your life. Eventually you're going to come out on the other end, and you might have a really well-paying job, and you have that financial stability. And so you have to kind of remind yourself of those things and what kind of drew you into that field in the first place to really kind of get yourself through, especially in these really difficult times.
How about Gladys? We haven't heard from Gladys in a while.
Yeah, with everybody. Yeah, I would say, sorry. I would say it has affected workers, employees, especially our students. It's isolated a lot of people, but it is what it is. It's a pandemic. So, we can't, all I'm gonna say is just use your resources if you're struggling mental health wise because of what's going on, because of COVID, because of racial injustice. Ask for help, because nobody knows what you're thinking. Like, everybody would think that you're just fine, but like, I think you need to speak up. You need to be able to ask for help.
Thank you, Gladys. Any other panelists?
Okay, let's move on to question number 9. So question number 9 is, what advice would you give students in regards to classes that they are currently struggling with?
I'll speak to this one. So a lot of science, mathematics, engineering courses are challenging. They aren't meant to be easy, but you have to find what works for you in terms of how well you study. For me, I devised my own little kind of shorthand when I was in college because I wanted to listen to what the instructors were saying, but I also wanted to write down every single word they were saying. So I would write my notes in class, and then I would go directly after class and everything was fresh in my mind, and I would rewrite my notes in full sentences, full words, and different colored pens to highlight bullet points and things like that. And then I would read my notes multiple times. If they referenced a particular image in a book or a chapter or something like that, I would go to that chapter in the textbook and read about that. I was very big on like drawing myself pictures. I'm a very visual learner. I have to see it with my own eyeballs. I have to draw it out for myself for it to make sense. My oldest son, you can tell him something, give him an instruction verbally, and he's off and running. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to hear that 3 more times. Like I need to read it for myself. And you just have to figure out how you learn and make that work for you, because not everybody's going to learn the same way. I've seen students sit there in the class with their hands folded in their lap, not take a single note, and they just absorb everything the professor says. And I'm just like, who are you? Get out of here. You're the one that's going to ruin the curve for everybody. But then there's people who think they can learn things that way and they don't, but then they don't learn from their mistakes and how they study. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm a super lazy student. I'm a study the night before the exam kind of a girl because my short-term memory used to be really great, not so much now, but I find myself now because of the kind of work that I do, I remember things about specimens that were received in the lab, and somebody will ask me a question about something that happened 3 months ago. And I remember exactly what was going on that day, what happened with that sample, what the problem was, but ask me what I ate for lunch. And I'm just like, I don't know. Did I eat lunch? Who knows? But like, you just have to figure out what works for you and understand that it's a struggle. And I mean, if it's too difficult and if you're repeatedly finding that the coursework is too difficult, then maybe you need to think about something that's still in that field that you love, but not quite so intense. Like maybe you love biology, but you want to do a general biology. Maybe microbiology is too intense for you, or immunology is it's too much into the weeds of the genetics and the minutia of biology. Maybe chemistry is better. Maybe you're better with the physical science, something like that. You just kind of need to figure out what your niche is. And I think some students think like, oh no, I've got to go and do this thing. This is a degree course that I'm planning on doing, and I'm not going to do anything else. And that's how people, I think, set them up for failure. I wanted to be a doctor when I was in high school, and then I got to college. I was like, ooh, I don't want to do that. I want to do research. And then as I got on to, throughout my career, I was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And I was open to that change. I wasn't rigid in my path for myself. So.
I want to answer this question, but I missed the question because I was typing an answer. So I don't want to answer the wrong question. What was the question?
Not a problem, Michael. The question was, what advice would you give students in regards to classes that they're struggling with?
Oh, okay, great. So mine's going to be a very short answer, but I would strongly encourage students to reach out to their teachers and professors, finding out, what would best benefit them, so that both parties are able to, establish maybe a certain ground here to find out what they can do to help each other out. So this might be able to explain, what better issue that they're finding, so they can ultimately come to a solution. So what helped me, basically, that's just speaking from experience. If you are struggling with something, I strongly encourage you to reach out to those resources, particularly your professors or your teachers, because they will help you. They will help you get through it. They want to see you succeed, so they will, find out what's going to work best for you.
Thank you, panelists. We are going to take one of our questions that has been a student question to the panelists. How has COVID changed your profession and your work?
I'll answer. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead, Samantha.
So I work in the laboratory, and COVID hit us really hard in terms of testing. We had to develop, well, not develop, we didn't develop any testing assays for COVID specifically, but we had to bring on assays on our current instrumentation that we had in the laboratory to run COVID testing. So we do PCR, polymerase chain reaction, on one of our instruments that we already had in-house, that we ran that instrument for other testing. And so we had to validate this COVID test when the kits became available, and they like pumped these kits out really, really quick. And they're like, okay, here's how you use it. And then like a week later, okay, we made a change, a modification to the kit. You got to do it this way. And, oh, you need to use this much sample, and you have to use this much specimen, and all these other little variables kept popping up. And myself and the supervisor of the serology department worked probably, I think, a 15-hour day to do the validation for COVID, because it was like the hospital was breathing down our necks to get some type of assay available for PCR for testing on this instrumentation. And so we got the validation going, and then we got it to communicate to the computer filing system. And it was like, we threw a little party, the results came out the way they were supposed to. And then the instrumentation companies started getting really a little bit quick with their production. And then we would get kits that weren't complete, or that the materials would be leaking, and lots of little things. And even with our rapid COVID test, it's on a little instrument called an ID Now. The way they changed the sample type on that instrument probably 5 times before they set a specimen type in place. Like, oh, it could be this type or that type. It's nasal. It's got to be in liquid. It's got to be dry. And so many changes, like constantly changing. And it was insane. And then my lab director, who doesn't work on the bench in the lab doing any work, he actually brought on another PCR instrumentation while I was on medical leave. I needed to have a knee replacement surgery. And so he brought on an instrument, was actually working the bench with the rest of us while he was trying to do his administrative duties. And it was just really, really rough. And I mean, a lot of us were working really long hours. I took a 1-week vacation all of last year. I didn't even ask for any vacation time this year, because it's so abnormal now to even have vacation to take, because everybody is either sick, we're working extra shifts because people were sick, and it's just kind of a roller coaster of emotions. I don't know who anybody is, because everybody's wearing a mask. So I only know the people who I've worked with for years and years. We have all these young, brand new people, and I'm just like, wear your name badge in front of your mask, because I don't remember your faces. But I mean, yeah, COVID has changed the work. It's made us and the laboratory, we've always known that we were really important, but it really made us know how important we were, because we're the ones turning out all the COVID results, So, I mean, I don't know, it's just a lot. We get a lot of pressure all the time for COVID results. It's like the only thing anybody ever calls us for anymore. I sent a COVID specimen down 5 minutes ago. When's that PCR going to be done? I'm like, 3 hours, ma'am. It's not quick. So, yeah.
I'll answer.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, however, with all of us wearing masks in the hospital, we had less sick call outs due to flu. I'll tell you that much one season. There was hardly any call outs.
I work at the,
No, go
Yep,
ahead.
yep.
You've
all
been
right,
waiting.
thanks. The challenges that we've had at the VA was Samantha at the beginning. I did not work as a hygienist for a whole year. I was actually the screener at the emergency entrance. So I would screen everyone for COVID, whoever came in. So that went on for a whole year. Finally, we went back to work But for every patient that we see, we have to do the Binax. So not the PCR, but the Binax. So it takes 15 minutes, swab their nostrils and put it on the antigen drops. And we wait 15 minutes to get the results. And then if they're negative, of course, we see them. If they're positive, we send them to the department where they do the PCR, and then they send it to the lab, and they find out if they're actually positive. Most of them have been positive to the PCR, and but that's basically what happened at the hospital. In the private sector, they don't check any of their patients for any COVID. They just, they do the screening. That's the difference between working in a hospital and working in private sector. That I have a lot of my friends, they're just like, oh, I'll just pray, that I don't get COVID, or that this patient's telling me the truth. So anyways, that's the challenges or what we come across since the last 2 years with COVID. I've been lucky that I work at the VA, that I check every single patient for COVID. So, but I feel sorry for my hygiene friends out there.
I'm sorry, really quick. You remind me of something. They actually lock the toilet paper in our restrooms now. I just sort of throw that out there. They do that now. It's been a high commodity ever since.
Like one of the most important challenges I've experienced during this COVID season is maybe like the nursing field. As far as nursing field or the medical field, healthcare field, a lot of people are experiencing burnout because it just overwhelmed everybody, especially during the surges. But the most important thing is take care of yourself, not just physically. You should take care of yourself mentally as well, because that's very important. If you are providing care for the patient, that patient is dependent on you. So you have to be healthy physically and mentally.
Okay, so our next question is another question from a student. What were your greatest challenges when starting your career in health?
One of the challenges that I started in my career was trying to avoid making mistakes, because what happened was I was so used to having associates with me. I was having another technologist with me that was constantly showing side by side. And then when I actually when I graduated and I started my job, I got into a graveyard shift, and I was all by myself. And so with that, I had to trust my own judgment. I didn't have anyone else there to help me. And so it was actually a big reality check as far as where some of my insecurities were when it came to second guessing my work. And so part of it was just, I noticed that I was really trying very hard not to make a mistake. It's one of my biggest challenges back then.
Yeah, I think I agree with that 100%. So shortly after I got my license, I think maybe 3 months after I became a CLS, I was put on the graveyard shift. And there was another scientist on shift who was a senior scientist. He had, like 20, 30 years of experience. But when you're on a shift or days or PM shift, there's tons of other people that are around where you can ask them questions. And if you're second guessing yourself, you go, hey, can you look at this white blood cell from your nuclei? I think it's this type, but it might be this other type. And you open yourself up to questioning everything. But when you're forced to think about things on your own and use your own judgment and your own knowledge, it kind of forces you to be better. Like I say that like working the graveyard shift, like at least in the laboratory, makes a great scientist, because you don't have anybody else to back you up. You have to think about yourself. I was really good at troubleshooting an analyzer because they like to break down in the middle of the night. That's when the gremlins come out. And so I was really good about getting in there and digging through things to figure out what was going on with an instrument before I resorted to calling service. And I'm not a mechanical person. Like, I don't know if y'all saw in the beginning, my husband was in here trying to figure out how to work my camera because I'm like, what's it do? It's broken, fix it, you know, like, can't do it. But some people don't thrive on the graveyard shift. We have a girl who's a new scientist, and she was petrified about the prospect of potentially going to the graveyard shift. We didn't have an opening, so she didn't need to. But her first like 2 or 3 months on the job, she kept every single blood gas she ran during the day so she could recheck her results at the end of her shift. And I had to talk her off that ledge. Like, you don't need to do that. You can't rerun those specimens to see if they're still accurate because a blood gas is only good for like 30 minutes. And why keep it? You have to trust that you're not going to make a mistake. You're very careful. And that's the biggest thing, is learning to trust yourself, that you're not going to make a mistake, especially in a hospital setting that might cause a patient harm. You know, that's the biggest thing, is trusting yourself. And like, when you've got a whole bunch of other people over your shoulder constantly that can tell you what you're doing wrong, that I don't really think that's helpful. But I also don't think it's helpful to kind of throw somebody in the deep end of the pool when they don't know how to swim. You need to provide guidance, but let them get to the answer on their own. I think that's really important.
Thank you, panelists. Next student question. Is the career you're currently in your first choice, or did you change your career more than once?
As I was a dental assistant before going into the dental hygiene. Right out of high school, I went to Reed College and I took a 2-year dental assistant program there. And then I got into my first job at a dental office in Sanger, and I didn't even know what a dental hygienist was. I just, you know, but there's this hygienist there with her own schedule, her own patients. And I realized I kept, you know, asking her questions about, oh, what should I do? I would like to be a dental hygienist. I had no idea what all the microbiology, you know, all the science classes that came with dental hygiene, right? And so she gave me all advice. I'm like, oh yeah, start taking all these classes. So while I was working for about 12 years, the dental assisting, I was taking night classes. So I was taking 2 to 3 classes at night or a semester. And I basically fell into dental hygiene by mistake or by luck, I want to say. And I fell in love with this career that has given me everything that I have. So I'm glad I chose dental hygiene, and that's basically.
I actually, I stayed in the nursing field pretty much since I graduated. So it's been closer to about 16 years now. But one of the things that I can tell you with nursing is that it's such a broad field. There's so many different areas that you can go into. So a lot of times people say, you know, I would like a job where I work with people, or I really like to communicate, or I like to, you know, and so my advice for that is, if you're at all interested in any area of nursing, if you get that degree, it opens up so many different areas that you can go into, whether you're into children, you know, or you're into geriatrics, or you're more of an auditor, or licensing, you know, nursing affords you the opportunity to go into any of those different areas. Essentially, you just have to get that license first, hence comes the degree. But so I just wanted to throw that in there, that if you're kind of questioning it, there are so many different avenues that you can go to with nursing.
Any other panelists on second choice or second career?
I'm just going to say it real quick. Like I told you in the beginning, my second choice for the career was hostage negotiating. But I'm just going to be completely honest now. Well, the reason why I went there is because I saw the movie The Negotiator, and Samuel L. Jackson just did a terrific job. And I kind of felt like I could have done the same thing, but like I said, there's just no way.
Okay, thank you. All right, so final question, panelists. What strategies do you use to prevent burnout?
I think you're going to hear a lot of people talk about self-care. So that's probably the biggest thing is self-care and being able to, like, once you have a career or when you compartmentalize your life into different areas, like leave work at work and come home and enjoy your family and enjoy your friends and take time to go out into the actual real world. I think that's probably the biggest thing is having that self-care for mentally, spiritually, making sure that those are filled up and that you have support in those areas.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You have to separate work from home. And I used to go to the gym like 3 or 4 times a day, or not a day, sorry, 3 or 4 times a week. And once I wasn't able to do that after I had my second knee replacement, and then when COVID hit, like it was just like I couldn't go to the gym, and I found myself really feeling stressed, more so than usual. And I'm not a person who gets really stressed out and like freaks out about things and like gets snippy with people, but I was finding myself more agitated than normal. And so I've found that I need to just sit at home. So like my favorite thing to do when I get home is just to kind of veg out and watch TV. And then I have this little painting app on my tablet and I just paint stupid pictures. And that's my way to decompress, something mindless that I do at home. Like I watch my younger son play his video games and he likes to tell me about what he learned at school. And my older son shows me his silly little videos that him and his friends take at school, and he does little stop motion animation and stuff. Like, so I kind of just let them tell me about their lives while I'm just absorbing everything, because that's so important, is just to remember that you have to keep your work life and home life separate, because if you take it home, then you're never leaving anything anywhere, and it's just too much sometimes.
Take vacations. Yes, go to the beach. Yeah, that's my decompression time. Unfortunately, the last year or so, we have not taken any vacations, but we go to Mexico, a week or so, and come back all rejuvenated. So, yeah.
And even if, I was going to say, even if it's not big trips, like Anita was saying, like go to Yosemite, go to a picnic, go to Woodward Park. I don't know, just get outside, get out of your normal routine, and it helps break the monotonous.
Yeah, I was absolutely going to echo that. You don't need to have these large, big to-dos about how you're going to have a self-care someday or have a vacation someday. Make it today. And even if it's just taking that hour after work to decompress and do whatever helps you relax. If it's, it can mean so many different things for different people, but you do get days off eventually, most of the time. And if you don't, try and find ways to accommodate it so you can, and find ways to fit in things that rejuvenate you on those times.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists. That was some amazing information that you provided to our students. I'm sure they were able to, gain so much knowledge and advice as far as moving forward with their careers in the health field. So next we'll have Ben, who will be doing a closing statement for us.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. So hello, everyone. My name is Ben Reynoso. I'm the administration lead for our Health and STEM Pathways team. I also oversee our TRIO programs as well as our Dream Center here at Fresno City College. So on behalf of our Dean of Health, Dean Lorraine Smith, I'd like to first off thank all the panelists for being so informative, so raw, and so real today in your conversations with our students. With many of you serving as our first responders in your careers in health, you're all very admirable, and we cannot wait for that day that our students on here also join the same ranks as you being a professional. The fact that you stated that you had to work extra jobs while in college, raise your own families, studying late hours, trying to pass classes, asking for help, using financial aid, and now you are professionals, show our students that this career in health can become a reality. Thank you, students and everyone, for putting this together. Students, finish strong and know that we as a campus are here to help you out. Please, a reminder that we have a career and transfer fair tomorrow outside of our health science building and outside of our math, science, and engineering building, all morning tomorrow from 9 to 2 p.m. And then Wednesday, we will have another one of these panelists. So if you want to hear more from STEM careers, we will have the same exact thing from 6 to 7:15 p.m. Also, you will see that we have included a link to our survey. Please fill it out so you can get credit for coming today. Again, thank you, panelists. Thank you, students. Let's all finish strong this semester. Ram strong.